What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining me today here on College Sports Revived, and boy, do I have a present special for you. It took me a while, but I've created a draft class of all of the legends we've watched create a name for themselves over all the series we've done together on this channel. I got 30 plus players that are in this class with accurate faces, animations, hot and cold zones, you name it, I got it. I added a ton of little minute details to really make this class come to life for you guys in your My NBA and association modes, and I'm sure that you longtime fans of the channel will enjoy those little details. For instance, Christopher Faye, the 7-foot beast we had on UT Martin, he was originally recruited out of Senegal, Africa, so I made sure he and Luke Lawton, who came from New Zealand, who he recruited him overseas as well, I made sure those two guys qualified for the world team on the All-Star Weekend festivities, just so it would make more sense and line up, and really having this class come to life for you guys. And I'm sure you guys will enjoy that. I put in a lot of time, detail, and fun. I had a lot of fun looking at old videos to see players' stats and jump shots and what have you, so I can make this class as accurate as possible so you can have your favorite players from my channel in my leagues and my NBAs and what have you. So it's on PlayStation 5. I own a PS5 myself, and that's what the class is on. And you can find it in one of two ways. You can search by online ID. My PS5 username is J23Fitz. Feel free to add me, shoot me a message, tell me that you watched the videos, and I'll interact with you guys for sure. So you can find the draft class using that, or you can just type in College Sports Revived on the content name filter, and that should also work just as well for you guys. As you see here, it comes up. I just uploaded the roster before uploading this video, so it should be up for you boys on PlayStation 5. So let's head into the draft class itself and learn all of the players. First and foremost, one of the higher overalls, the highest rated point guard on this roster is, of course, our man Jacques Diggs, who is flirting with 20 points per game on his senior year in our UT Martin series. You see his jump shot. I tried to make all the jump shots and animations line up as accurately as I could to their jump shot in College Hoops 2K8, or, you know, for me, Donovan and Ferran and Deshaun, I wrote down our jump shots from 2K21 and I'm adding them into this draft class. So I'm trying to make it, of course, as accurate as possible, and I think Jacques Diggs looks pretty good. And some little details for him: he's a recruit from San Antonio, Texas, so I have a Texas tattoo, and he's had some hand injuries in his career, so I also gave him a hand wrap as well. Jerome Clifford, my college and NBA rival, and of course here is myself, 77 overall. I decided to make the ages, as you see on the left there, I decided to make everyone a little bit higher of an age to, you know, weigh it out. A lot of these guys are older, but they have higher overalls for rookies, including pretty much everybody in the draft class. So having higher ages kind of balances it out a little bit with the rookies having higher overalls. And for me, Donovan, Deshaun, and Ferran, I know that we are the most popular players. I know people are always asking what are our animations and all that stuff. So for me, Ferran, Donovan, and Deshaun, I'm going to go through. For you guys who aren't on PS5, you can copy down and add in our animations so you guys can have it on your console as well. Deshaun Lacey, you're also going to see a lot of guys I faced off in college whenever I was at Texas. That's what I talked about earlier with, you know, of course, the longtime series watchers on my channel. You're going to recognize a lot of names, and even if you don't recognize these names, I'm going to have a little bit of cutscenes today showing you where these guys came from. And Deshaun Lacey was my biggest rival my freshman year. He was a guy I wish I added into the NBA roster as well, because I faced him 3 times my freshman year when he was a senior. Whenever he was on Kansas, the Jayhawks ended up winning the national championship. You see him here scoring the layup off the steal. Yeah, he was definitely my biggest rival because we lost to Kansas 3 times in my freshman year, all 3 times we faced them. Dwight Easley, of course, the point man from UT Martin, had a lot of fun, man. He was such a fun player to watch in his 4 seasons at UT Martin, a 4-year starter who can stretch the floor and is very smart when he makes his passes. Here's Jared Cordova, one of the more exciting players from my time at Texas. He was on Oklahoma, had a lot of close calls between us and Oklahoma, a lot of chippy fouls when we played the Sooners. Now we got Darnay Betancourt, of course, the Oklahoma transfer here in my UT Martin College Hoops 2K Legacy Mode series. He grows an inch, adds a couple more pounds, as he's now a 6'8" point guard. He's a very unique talent. Expect to see some guys add an inch of height or some more, muscle from being in the weight room. That's what tends to happen when guys make the transition to the next level. So here is Pierre Hamilton, another UT Martin Skyhawk point guard. And even though he didn't have the best career as a Skyhawk, he played a very important role. He was a pass-first, team-first point guard, super high IQ, and of course, whenever we bring up Jacques Diggs, we can't also forget to bring up Pierre Hamilton. These two guys were like peas in a pod on the floor. They marinated on the bench for a season, and whenever they both started, Hamilton found Diggs so many times for so many assists, and every time one of them scored, it seemed like the other one was always there to greet them. So now, as we trickle down to the bottom of the point guards, we have Jacoby Sinclair. He was a freshman back whenever I was a sophomore, and he was on Michigan State. We faced the Spartans in the national championship where we came out victorious. As you see here, number 23 on defense in the white jersey, that's Sinclair right there. He was a hot shot freshman point guard heading into this game. He was supposed to be my matchup, but he had early foul trouble. Didn't see a lot of him, but whenever he was on the court, he was very impressive and lit a spark in a Michigan State. So he's somebody I added as well. And to round out the point guards, we have Anthony Tucker, who is a very skilled defender. He's not the most athletic, doesn't offer much on offense, but I faced him whenever he was on Oklahoma State. I still feel that he was the best defender in the Big 12 at the point guard position whenever I was in college. So there's all the point guards. As we move to the shooting guards, of course, we're going to open up with the 79 overall rookie version of Farhan Nadeem, my good buddy who plays with me on the New York Knicks in our new series here as I make the transition from being a Pelican to a Knickerbocker. Farhan has had an awesome series, and I've loved having him as my teammate in the road to NBA 2K. Here's all of his animations as well. I will be making some updates to the draft class, of course. The only thing I haven't completed for everybody is the tendencies. And of course, tendencies are very important, as what's going to just kill the fun if Jacques Diggs takes 5 shots a game. So I don't have all the tendencies done for all the players, so I'm going to get around to that. Aaron Catley, my college and NBA teammate, you saw him there, 77 overall. And Marcus Saunders, a UT Martin legend. He started 3 years at the orange and blue, and he was always a deadly sharp shooter. He was a microwave and flirted with 2,000 career points. Now we're going to move on to Jasper Powell, another player from the 2K Legacy mode. He played for Tennessee State in the conference, and he was actually the best overall player in the conference when we started that series. He only played 2 seasons before he graduated. Then we have channel legend Mitchell Drew, my teammate back at Texas. I'm always getting a whole bunch of questions. What happened to Mitch? What happened to Mitch? Well, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. You guys write the rest of Mitchell Drew's story after it was a pretty tragic ending, although that can't overshadow his productiveness and the 1-2 punch we had at UT together. He was a very well deserving of a lot of awards he won there at the University of Texas. And you see here, he had that knee injury in the car accident that ended his career short in the Road to NBA 2K series. I have a blessed tattoo under that knee just to further cement that he's moved on and he's blessed that it happened, and whenever one door closes, another one can open. So Mitchell Drew, channel legend. I'm excited to see what you guys can turn his career into at the next level. We're gonna move down to Landon Lamoureux, who we just faced in the College Hoops 2K Legacy Mode series. Lamoureux is a 6'9" 2 guard, very lanky, great athlete for his size, quick first step on offense and a decent jump shot, but what overshadows that all is his ability to make plays on defense. We all know Jacques Diggs is probably the best scorer we've had in the 6 seasons we played UT Martin, but Landon Lamoureux, just recently this season in year 6, he has almost entirely silenced Jacques Diggs in both of their matchups. He is probably the best perimeter defender, not only in the draft class, but in that UT Martin series in the Ohio Valley Conference. Now we're going to move down to Chris Bowden-Key. Even though we didn't face him a lot, he made himself a legend as he had a shootout with another player we're going to see in the small forward section of this draft class. Chris Bowden-Key played for Southeast Missouri State, a school that always seems to be the underdogs and Cinderellas of the Ohio Valley Conference tournament in the College Hoops 2K Legacy Mode series. And Bowden-Key here in Season 2, we fell short in the second round game at UT Martin, so we sat in and watched Southeast Missouri play EKU for the conference title, and behind Chris Bodenke's 32 points, he made himself a legend. It's always a great time whenever we can sit in on CPU versus CPU action. And then Justin Proctor, he was a teammate on Texas, didn't see the floor a lot, but I actually threw my first ever career assist to him at the University of Texas when I was a freshman. He made a 3 from the corner, couldn't find the clip though. And now we move on to Blair Renfro, the best shooter probably in the roster and the best shooter we had at UT Martin. He's got an A+ 3-point, the only player on this roster who has that distinction. He was a zone killer. That was his nickname whenever we played at UT Martin. So we're going to move over to the small forward section. Now we got Deshaun Christian, another hometown buddy of mine. He's the top rated small forward in the class. And if you're curious about our ages, since me and Deshaun came in a year after Donovan and Ferran did in the NBA, we're both 21 years old, and Donnie and Ferran are 20 years old. There's no 19-year-olds in this class, like I said earlier, to offset the better overalls for pretty much everybody in this draft class. So we're going to move on to Luke Lawton, who came in as a very raw prospect. He was in our first ever draft class, or rather recruiting class for UT Martin, but he became a very solid offensive player with a 3-point percentage near 38% in his senior year. And of course, he was always one of the best defenders, not only on the perimeter, but also in the interior. You could play Luke Lawton at the 3 or the 4 in this draft class for sure. Moving down, we have another UT Martin Skyhawk. We have David Giles, who kind of paved the way for Marcus Saunders. I mean, he's the one who started at the 2 guard in season 1. Then came Marcus Saunders in season 2 as Giles moved to the 3 in his senior year. And it all started with this 3-pointer coming up here. This was the but I believe 3rd episode of the UT Martin Skyhawk series, uploaded all the way back in 2018, and David Giles to give Coach Carter his first ever win at the University of Tennessee Martin at the college level. He stepped up and hit a game-winning 3 to beat Belmont and started a series-long rivalry with the Belmont Bruins with only one flick of the wrist. So he became a legend with just that shot. He is a great 3-and-D player to have on your roster. Chris Hines, another guy who was kind of short-lived. I mean, he only played 1 season in the Road to NBA 2K series whenever I was at college. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and he made a lot of noise in his small time in the series. He averaged over 15 points per game, as he was a very productive teammate for myself. So going back to that Belmont game with David Giles, we have Clint Singleton, who actually led the Bruins in scoring in that matchup. And as you can see here, I had to fix the release timing. For some reason, 2K's making my jump shots all very slow for some reason. But anyway, let's run back the tape. Who made that 3-pointer before David Giles stealed it at the buzzer? Well, as you see here, it was Clint Singleton himself who took the lead for the Belmont Bruins, scoring 23 points. The senior from Memphis, Tennessee, had a very good game in this one, not only on the perimeter, but he was a great athlete getting to the rim. He's got long strides that were hard to stay in front of, and his finishing ability was on show for a lot of that game. Those 2 guys started a season or series-long rivalry between Belmont and UTM. We started playing them once every season. Now Tyler Holiday. We talked about Chris Bodenke getting into one of the biggest shootouts of the entire series just a couple moments ago, the 2 guard for Southeast Missouri State. Well, on the other side of that shootout was this man right here, Tyler Holiday. In that OVC title game, Holiday led EKU with 38 points in the loss. So between him and Chris Bodenke, they combined for over 70 points in the contest. 33 from Bodenke and 38 for Tyler Holiday. That was an incredible game we sat in and watched. So I had to add both of those sharpshooters into the roster. And as we finish the small forward section, we have Albert Ford, who started actually whenever I first came to Texas. He's kind of like a Draymond Green type of player. Really good defender, really solidly built, a lot of strength on the perimeter and in the post. You can play him at the 3 or the 4. And he always came out on the perimeter and would hit a jump shot every once in a while. He actually had a decent touch from long range despite being a big body. So he ended up coming off the bench for my sophomore year, but he was still always a very productive player. a really good energy guy to come off the bench. So as we move to the power forwards, we have, of course, Donnie G himself, another 79 overall. That's the highest overall you're going to see within the roster. And of course, Donovan, he is a guy who can do a little bit of everything, seemingly. Another look at all of his animations, and he's always a fun player to watch. So here at the power forward position, 78 overall, we have Sebastian Farley, who was on a rival of ours in the UT Martin series, Murray State. We had a lot of close calls with the Racers throughout the entire series, a lot of overtime games, and Sebastian Farley actually became the best player overall in the conference after Jasper Powell and Tennessee State hung it up and graduated. Farley is a guy who can do it all, and as you see there, he had a little knee brace on. That's because his season was ended short in his senior campaign. We played the Racers again in that conference tournament, but unfortunately Sebastian Farley had his senior year cut short due to a severe knee injury. So I have the little strap on his knee for Sebastian Farley. So moving back to UT Martin, on our roster, we had a senior in year one who actually ended up leading the conference in scoring. That man's name was Shaquille Hammond. It took him a little bit while to find his touch after the coaching change. It could be hard for star players to get back into the rhythm whenever a new coach is at the helm. But once Hammond found his touch again, he was lights out. He scored a career high 38 points against Chattanooga in his senior year back in year one. And it was in a loss, but still, he was a very good player and actually ended up leading the team in steals per game. Even though he was kind of, a lackluster defender, he was always really good in our press. I mean, he had long arms and had a nose for the ball whenever we extended our defense. And inside or out, Hammond is a guy on offense who could do it all. 6'10", well built, and a high IQ on the offensive side of the floor. Now we have Teron Gardner, who is a hustle beast. He is an awesome rebounder, actually leading the team right now in season 6 in that category. So he's always a welcome addition for sure, and he's also got a good touch from mid-range. And now we also have Moses Anaganye, one of my teammates from the UT Martin series. He was our starting center, a little undersized, but he made up for it with incredible leaping ability and a nose for the ball underneath the glass. Take a look at this play right here. I remember this game against North Carolina my sophomore year when we won it all. This was in the Final Four game, the semi-final game, and this was a huge swing of momentum that really silenced the Tar Heels. He caught the pass off the inbound and dunked it in after he just threw one down. He actually was a perfect 10 for 10 that game in his best ever career outing. So the final small forward we have on the list was Cordell Crosby. We just got done playing him in the conference tournament in season 6 of the UT Martin series. He is a guy who can deliver a lot to a team in the low post. He is very strong and has great footwork for a guy his size. He is not the best defender. However, Tech is a great defensive team, so it's kind of, shrouded behind that fact. But Cordell Crosby is a guy who's very strong. He shoots a lot of free throws because of how much contact he draws, and he's a great free throw shooter as well. So moving on to the centers, we have Seneca Lopez, who was arguably our toughest opponent in the UT Martin series for his 4 seasons at Samford. He's a lefty, can do a little bit of everything on offense and defense. I really can't think of one weakness to his game. There is his stats from his senior year, a 7'1" center who can stretch it out to the perimeter, and he gave Chris Fay a lot of grief on the offensive side of the floor. Samford always seemed to have a great team, especially on defense. They actually led the conference in least points per game allowed a couple years running, and he was a big reason for that. Great shot blocker and athlete for being 7'1". I have to update his size. He's only 7'1" right now. And Christopher Fay, he came into his freshman year back in season 2 as only 6'10", but he went through a growth spurt throughout the UT Martin series, and that's another thing that's cool about UT Martin and College Hoops 2K in general. The players that you recruit, they go through growth spurts, they add some muscle and weight throughout the entire of their careers. So that's something that's really cool. I love the little detail in that game. You saw there he qualifies for the world team. Wanted to add that for him and Luke Lawton because Luke Lawton's from New Zealand. Chris Fay is from Senegal, Africa. Those two guys came in on the same recruiting class together back in season 2. Now we take a look at Blaine Fry. Of course, probably the best interior defender. I don't think that's a probably. I think he is well with that distinction of the best interior defender we've ever had in the College Hoops 2K Legacy Mode series in the 6 years we've been at UT Martin. He's coming off a game where he just had 6 blocks in the previous episode, and I remember this was back in his freshman year. This was his first start against Morehead State, where he had 12 rebounds and no shot attempts, and that's what really changed Coach Carter's mind and gave him the start. So Sidney Mitchell, he's another guy we played back in the title game against Michigan State. He was their leading scorer and threw a lot of assists to their playmakers. And here he is getting the stop on Robert Saunders and the rebound. He was very impressive. He had a lot of good passes to Michigan State's many perimeter shooters. Now we have Clayton Anthony, a 7'1" defensive-oriented big fella from Baylor. Another guy, another opponent from the another opponent from the Road to NBA 2K series whenever he played for Baylor and I was at Texas. Don't expect him to put up many numbers on the offensive end, but he's 7'1", crazy long wingspan. You can see here at center court. This was one of our matchups in my freshman campaign as he wins the jump ball there over Moses Anaganye. But yeah, Clayton Anthony, he's probably the best interior defender I've faced in college. So now we have Anthony Thornton. As we get closer and closer to the end of this draft class, Anthony Thornton was a high school teammate of mine. The Southpaw was always a very good mid-range shooter and had great hands. No matter how many no-look passes I threw him, he always seemed to catch every single one, and he actually became the coach for us at the New Orleans Pelicans. So he is a guy who's a reoccurring character. And as we reach the end of the draft class, Dominique Cleveland is the final guy you will see on the draft class, the 7'2" Space Eater, who was actually the first ever recruit for UT Martin. He came in the same class as Luke Lawton and Chris Fay, but we had a commitment from Cleveland before we had one from Fay and Lawton. And Dominique Cleveland, he rode the bench for the first 2 years as a project player, but then came into his own a little bit here in season 6 as we wrap up the series. He is a player who plays with a lot of heart there on the floor, not the most skilled, but a guy who will give you 110% on both sides of the basketball. Great offensive rebounder as well. So that's it. We've got over 30 plus players from all of your favorite series here on my channel. It's on the PlayStation 5. Just go look up either my username in the content name or look up my PlayStation 5 username in the content creator section, the player ID section, and you'll be able to find the roster with ease. And I hope you guys have a lot of fun with it, man. It took me a lot of time to get this thing completed. The only thing I have left to do is to complete the tendencies, which, of course, like I said earlier, it's no fun if the tendencies are all out of whack. I mean, why have Jacques Diggs in your draft class if he's not shooting? So I'm gonna have to get those done, and I'll keep updating the draft class. If there's things I don't like or things you guys notice and you want me to change, definitely leave it down in the comment section below. If there's anything you think that needs fine-tuning. You saw Jacques Diggs there on the Houston Rockets. Here's Darnay Betancourt, the 6'7", now 6'8" in the NBA level. Point guard, that was the transfer from Oklahoma here in the Charlotte Hornets. Dunking one down, great mid-range shooter. Shaquille Hammond, he can give you a little bit of everything on the offensive end. Great footwork, can beat you inside or out. He's got a face-up game and a post-up game back to the basket, and he can hit the NBA range 3. And the final player, of course, Mitchell Drew, as you see here, sporting the Dallas Mavericks jersey. We got a lot of good things coming here in this draft class. I hope you guys have a lot of fun adding your players or my players into your NBA game, and I had a lot of fun creating this draft class. So let me know. I want to see if Mitchell Drew becomes a star or Donovan Gray drops a triple-double in your My NBA. Let me know what kind of things happen in your My NBA. Who knows? Maybe Dominique Cleveland can win the MVP. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more content coming up, and I'm excited that I was able to bring this draft class to you guys. Stay safe out there, everybody. This is College Sports Survived signing out. Peace, everybody.